All right, people. I believe we are live on YouTube. I know it takes a little time to populate the video thing here, the video machine, whatever it is, the computer internet thingy that we've got going here. So I like to start these things slow. There are a lot of things to talk about. I know sometimes when I do these, sometimes we have a little less to talk about. Sometimes there's a lot to talk about. Sometimes somewhere in the middle. This time there is roughly a billion things to talk about. We just opened up this tier to everyone on Patreon. We've done this one or two times before, and I hope that the folks at the $15 tier don't mind when we do this. But I like to give people a little extra access sometimes. And also, there's so many things going on between the live streaming stuff and the demonetization stuff, and just some great stuff that's happening with the show and the growth that we're having and all that stuff that I wanted to open us up to more people. So first off, as always, if you are watching this live, I know a lot of people watch it on tape, but if you are watching it live, I see we have a couple people in here already. You can submit questions, so submit questions right in the feed. I have a very fancy iPad here, and David and Amir are going to send the questions to me, and I'll get to them. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, though. But number one, the reason that we are doing this Patreon exclusive live stream, which is normally for the $15 and up tier people, the reason we're opening it up to everybody, basically all good stuff. So first off, I want to tell you that January, which ended yesterday, was our most viewed month ever. We had more views in January than any other month in the roughly 5-year history of the Rubin Report. So I'm very excited about that. I know this thing's kind of still populating, so I'm gonna just roll into the beginning of this a little slowly. You know what? I'll pause on some of the numbers and I'll just tell you a little bit about my day today. So as you guys know, this is my Patreon day. Starts at 8 a.m. It will end tonight at 7 p.m. We really packed it in this time. I lost a half hour for lunch. I did roll up a piece of turkey, put a little mustard in it, shot that down a little while ago, so I will survive. But it's my Patreon day, and I'm bouncing around from country to country talking to all of you guys. Obviously, the thing that everyone wanted to talk about today was the Peterson-Shapiro chat yesterday in this very room. There's a ton I want to talk to you about that. I think there's so many cool things happening right now. I really do think, as I said yesterday in the intro, there is a true idea revolution happening right now. And I think we're starting to turn a corner where I don't want to say we're winning, because the ideas that we're fighting against are so still embedded in media and at universities and in politics in general. But I think that there is something happening that you guys are all starting to coalesce around. And whether you watch me or you watch, Sam Harris or Ben or Peterson or Crowder or Rogan or whoever, it's like all of this crew is coming together to say we believe different things, but we respect the differences. We respect and want to protect our ability to have differences, more importantly than anything else. So there's something really, really cool happening right now. Okay, so just let's let you know. So again, you can ask some questions right down below, and I'll let you know what else is going on in the meantime. So yesterday was Peterson and Shapiro. Last month, January, our largest subscriber growth ever. Yesterday was also last month was our most viewed month ever. Yesterday was our most subscriber growth ever for one day, which we already crushed today. So today we've even beaten it by like 2,000 subscribers already. So back-to-back days of biggest subscriber growth ever, which is awesome. They gave me a couple other numbers here. Our podcast listens last month, January, the most ever. And by the way, of course, I was having a great day today. Really, it's fun talking to all you guys and connecting with these people. And I've gotten to really know people well. And I had lunch this week with one of our patrons. Hey, Andrew, if you're watching right now, great guy. I'm just meeting people. We've got Kevin out in Chicago who owns a farm and sent me some meat. And I'm eating some great chicken and pork and all sorts of stuff from Kevin. But I'm having a great day. And yesterday was so energetic and felt so wonderful. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a moment. But then at about 1 o'clock today, we found out that the video from yesterday, the Peterson-Shapiro video, was demonetized. It had 470,000 views in under a day. and they demonetized it. So of course, as I always have to do, I have to attack them publicly on Twitter. They get thousands of retweets. People start attacking them. And eventually they did just remonetize it, I think, in the last hour or two. The question is, what happens to those 470,000 views? Do they get monetized? Some of you were saying that you were seeing ads during the demonetization period. Do we get that rev? Does YouTube get that rev? They're completely untransparent. So we have no idea what happens with any of that. But also the bigger problem is that they keep doing this stuff where they demonetize that first 24, 48 hours. They monetize us after, but the ship has already sailed. So it's a real pain in the ass. Again, I don't want the government to come in and fix it. I'd like competition to do that. So we shall see what happens with that. Oh, by the way, we are doing one other thing. We've decided, so Google changed some other stuff. And our Google group Hangouts, which we were doing 3 of these Hangouts, 10 people each. It's pretty intimate. I get to really know you guys. We have one group that's kind of international, one group that's a little more in the mid to west United States, one group that's on the East Coast. Basically, that's basically how it works. Google was only allowing for 10 people in each of those groups. That's just the way they do Google group Hangouts. Man, it's been a long day of talking. But we are now adding 20 slots because they just expanded those groups. So if you want to jump in one of those tiers, and that's where you get to talk to me directly and meet a couple other fans and audience members, and people have connected and become friends. It's actually a really cool thing. So you can jump in on those higher tiers if you're interested. Okay, enough of a sell job. Am I going to be at LibertyCon? Yes, I am going to be at LibertyCon. I believe I'm speaking at LibertyCon on Friday, March 2nd. Which will be great. I'm in Florida right before that. Oh, no, I'm in Florida. Well, I'm in Florida before that and after that. But yes, I will be at LibertyCon. So definitely make sure to find me, say hello. I'm getting invited to a lot of LibertyCon type events, Young Americans for Liberty, that sort of thing. I find them, they're just fantastic. It's just a group of people who want to live and let live. And they're just fun and wonderful. Who else is there that I know that's been on the show? Somebody let me know. I'm definitely looking forward to that. I'm not interested in seeing the Black Panther movie. On a scale of 1 to 10, how racist does that make me? That's funny. I suppose it only makes you racist if you don't want to see it because it's mostly black people in the movie. That would be a racist thought. If you don't want to see it because you don't like superhero movies or there's something about Black Panther himself they don't like. I actually don't know much about Black Panther. I saw the preview for it. I think they ran a preview for it before Thor. Which Thor Ragnarok I absolutely loved, although Hulk, what's his name, the actor? Who's the actor? Hulk? Mark Ruffalo. What, I mean, he is just, follow that guy on Twitter for a second. You will hate Thor. You'll hate the Avengers. You'll want Ultron to win because he's just unbearable, leftist, drivel, nonstop all the time. By the way, I've respectfully invited him on the show a few times, and he has declined, or he has just ignored. But anyway, I don't know much about Black Panther. I thought the preview looked kind of cool. All we can do in America these days is seemingly make superhero movies. Can't really do anything else these days, but we do make superhero movies, so that's good. When will you have Sam Harris on again? We were trying to arrange Harris and Shapiro. That was the original duo that I was going to do. Sam's bouncing all over the place. He's been taking his podcast on the road, which, by the way, is something we're thinking about. Doing some more road stuff. I'm doing a lot of colleges, but I don't do the show really itself on the road. So we are thinking about doing that. We'll get Sam in soon. It's just a matter of lining up schedules. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. Maybe we can always do the one-on-one thing with him. Might be more interesting if we do a little group situation. So we'll see about that. I really like the interchange from Ben and Jordan regarding different levels relating to issues. That's something I spent a lot of time thinking about as well. Yeah. I like that analogy. I think it was Jordan that said it, this sort of analogy of the iceberg, and some people are sort of operating at the base level and some people are just up top. So in the world that you guys are in, that you guys pay attention to, it's like you guys are in at the base level. That's where we're at. So the base level, I think in this regard would be this is where the real conversations are happening. This is where we're really trying to figure out what's going on. We're not trying to slam everybody and tear people down. Then that's at the base of the iceberg. What you get, though, at the top, which is all you see above the water, is just what the mainstream is giving you. And it's just this fake, nonsensical drivel, basically. And most people, unfortunately, are still doing that. The reason I'm so enthused about everything, actually, is because I do sense something's changing. I think people are tuning out of this stuff in droves. Even the Grammys, I heard, just had the worst ratings ever. The Golden Globes did not do well. All of these things are being tuned out of, and people are tuning into more real conversation. I can't walk down the street without someone coming up to me at this point. We did this. So last night, so just let me tell you something about Jordan Peterson. If you are on the fence as whether this man is the real deal, 2 days ago, he goes on Joe Rogan. He does about 4 hours. I haven't even heard it yet because obviously I've been pretty busy. Then he comes here, does about 3 hours, did a couple publicity things in between. He's got his publicists with him, and the book is on fire. It's the #1 book on Amazon. I think they sold around $400,000 worth of the book like in a week or something. I mean, it's really nuts. Comes here, as I said in the interview, I wanted to be very respectful of his time because he was about to do a live event in front of a couple thousand people at a theater. And, even if it's just talking and just one person talking, there is a mental toll it takes. He's traveling, he lives in Toronto. He's bouncing around all over the place. He's in LA now, time shifts, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to be very respectful of his time, which is why we cut the super chat and the Patreon questions short, which I'm sorry about. And actually, next time he gets in, we did keep him here. So we'll try to get to some of them. He then, we wrapped at about 3 o'clock, I think. At 7:30, he was at the Orpheum Theater, which is a really great about 2,000 seat theater in downtown LA, like old school. You can see some pictures of it on my Twitter feed, but old school Hollywood theater. And as a surprise, they had me open for him. And the guy says, and here he is, the host of the Rubin Report, Dave Rubin. I'm telling you, I walked out there. I've never walked out to a bigger round of applause ever. I literally got a standing ovation as I was walking out. It's nice if you get a standing ovation at the end. That's what you're always going for. But I got a standing ovation on the way out. The energy in that room was explosive. And I made a couple of jokes. I talked about them cleaning up their rooms, and it was nice to see so many lobsters. And I said, I wasn't Jordan's first option to intro him. Kathy Newman was supposed to be here, but she couldn't make it, blah, blah, blah. Just laughs, big laughs all around. It was so nice. It was just wonderful. The energy, it was explosive. It truly was explosive. Anyway, I did 5 minutes or so, and I have just been getting back into stand-up. I crushed it at the Comedy Store last Saturday, which is great, and more stand-up is definitely coming. But then Peterson goes on, and he did about 2.5, maybe another 3 hours after the Q&A, probably about 3 hours of talking after he had just done all that for that 48-hour period. And he's tireless. We got back to the green room after, and now the publicists come back in, and the book, he's got to sign books now. There's probably 1,000 people waiting to sign books, and I'm out there taking pictures with people and blah, blah, blah. And he's still talking about postmodernism. He's still talking about, Marxism, cultural Marxism, and radical leftism, and all of this stuff. And it's like, he is the real freaking deal. He's doing such good work. It's so inspiring. It's truly inspiring to be around. So anyway, I got home last night, and I'm laying in bed, and I felt it was such a full day, such a good, rich day, such a rewarding day for everything we're doing. And I think really bringing out the best in all of us, bringing out the best in me and Ben and Pete and Jordan, just in all of us, like really coming around something. I think there's something so cool being built here. And anyway, then I have my Patreon day, which is great, and I'm connecting with you guys. Then this stupid YouTube thing happens, which then sends me in a tizzy for an hour. But anyway, we're finishing up strong with you guys right now. Okay, let's see. Dave, do you feel that by alienating academics, the radical left is pushing people together who would normally not mix, like Manhattan Project for the left's own destruction? I love that analogy, and that's exactly what I was saying to Ben and Jordan yesterday. This is not a normal collection of people that should be together. If you think of the political differences, we're going to do Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein in here on Monday. Okay, these are guys who are firmly on the left, burnt in the traditional sense. Ben is firmly on the right. Jordan, I would put sort of center-y, focused on freedom. That's kind of where I am, but that's probably considered center-right at this point. This Joe Rogan, how do you put this guy on a map? DeFranco is kind of libertarian, but a little has some leftist stuff. All of us, the only reason we're together now and in this expanding group is because the left has gone so bananas. They are actually showing us that the differences that we may have. So think about Sam Harris and Ben Shapiro. They disagree on literally everything, from tax policy to abortion to true. I mean, I don't know that there's any to the biggest questions of life, the meaning of life and existential realities and all of that stuff. There is nothing these two people agree on, except the left has drove them both to a place that they are now allies on stage together. This is wonderful. This is what it's about, that we are now all setting aside whatever our petty political differences are, just like you guys. You're looking for some answers, right? And that's why you wouldn't give me your hard-earned dollars. You wouldn't pledge your money to this show if you didn't think it was important, because the views that you care about are hopefully being strengthened by this show. So when you fund this show, especially with this YouTube nonsense, you're helping the ideas that you care about, that you want to work in your life. You're helping these ideas get out there. That's awesome. So the fact that they've driven us all together, I think, is a really interesting way that you explained it. Most exciting news of the week is that A New Hope will finally play with live orchestra at Royal Albert Hall. That's awesome. I went to Royal Albert Hall once. I saw the band Fish after a long European tour. I had been in Amsterdam for like 8 days. I'm pretty sure I was still stoned from stuff like 5 days before, but went to Royal Albert Hall. So that's awesome. They're going to play A New Hope with, you said with live orchestra. Do you mean, is it the London Philharmonic? Because I think I saw them do Star Wars here at the, what do we have here in LA? Whatever that outdoor thingy is. I can't even remember what it's called. I'm at the theater now, about to watch Last Jedi for the first time. If my expectations are zero, then it can't possibly be disappointed, right? Yeah, let me just leave it at that for now. We'll go for there. Johnny C. Taylor will be at LibertyCon. Oh, that's awesome. I love Johnny. Many of you guys may remember my interview with Johnny. He was at the time, he was just resigning to take a new position, but he was the president of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Really, really great guy, just infectious. He's actually, in this wonderful partnership we have with Learn Liberty. All they do is they send us a list of people and they say, do you like any of these people to talk to this month? And I look through the list and I go, well, there's a couple people here. Let's go with this one. And sometimes they send us a whole bunch and I'm not really interested, and then they send us some others, and that's it. They don't control content in any way. That's it. That's it. I say their name at the top of the show, and it's wonderful. And they give us a great partnership. Johnny is the only person that I personally requested, because I had seen him speak in Dallas, and this guy just had so much energy and was just a true joy to listen to. And he was wonderful here. The reaction to him was great, which is fantastic. YouTube's demonetization of the Peterson Shapiro video is bullshit. Glad we can still support you here. Thank you very much. And by the way, there's no way I can ever really thank you guys appropriately for doing what you do for us here. But part of the YouTube the stupidity is that if they would have just monetized the video, it's not that YouTube pays a lot. On the audio podcast, for example, I'm going to slightly fudge numbers here because I don't know them exactly. But on the YouTube, on the audio podcast, generally industry standards, I think, is about $20 or $25 CPM, meaning the creator gets $25 or so, about $20 for every 1,000 downloads. Now, then you may have to then split that with your agent or the podcast hosting company or whatever, but that's generally how it works. YouTube, it's about $2 per 1,000. So you're not making a lot of money on YouTube in general, unless you're plowing through numbers that are extraordinary. So if they would have just monetized their stuff, not cared about it, nobody would have complained. Instead, they make me tweet about it. Now these tweets get thousands of retweets, and then they look like idiots, and then I have to waste time fighting them. So it's so short-sighted. The question is, what is going on? Like, is it actually the algorithm hitting it, which I've been told by some insiders that my channel is being watched at a special level, or is it some like 22-year-old douchebag at YouTube who has access and he's just pressing a button? And that's maybe why our feed went out yesterday, and why the day before the Daily Wire's stream went out when they were covering the State of the Union, but the Young Turks didn't. I don't know. I'm just saying that, at some point these things keep happening and you go, what actually is going on here? Warren, congrats on the growth. My January 2018 was 55% up over January 2017 for ZenPro. That's audio. That's audio. That's awesome, Warren. So Warren, I've mentioned him a couple times before. Great guy. He's been here. He's been a patron from the beginning. And Warren donated all of our sound panels and our wireless mics and some other audio stuff, so you can see our sound panels, and the mics are sitting on that table over there and all that good stuff. That's awesome. So if any of you guys are in the market for some great audio equipment, definitely check out ZenPro Audio. A reminder for some of you guys that just jumped in: biggest YouTube ever growth last month in views, biggest subscriber growth today. We had broke it yesterday, was previously. Yesterday's show was demonetized. It finally got remonetized. We've just opened up some new Google Hangouts, etc., etc. The show with Ben and Dr. Peterson was fantastic, inspiring. Did you happen to catch Owen Benjamin's tweet? If not, here it is. A gay atheist, an Orthodox conservative, a Christian academic walk into a bar and get along. Why? Because they don't subscribe to identity politics. My Twitter was so nuts that I actually didn't see that one, but that's pretty great. And whether at the end of the day, you know, as I've said lately, I'm not loving the term atheist for what I believe. But the basics idea of I don't believe in things that can't be proven. That being said, but I do have some sort of ephemeral belief in something that I just can't quite explain. I just can't. And I'll be happy to discuss that with plenty of other guests. But putting that aside, because that wasn't the point. The point was that people who think differently about different things were able to just sit there and enjoy it. And I can tell you it was a true joy. There was a moment where I was looking at Ben and Jordan, you know, Jordan's on one of his tears and his hands are flying all over the place and he's talking about the metaphysical world and this is happening. And Ben was looking at him with I could see admiration. I could see admiration. And I think one of the really cool things that's happening is that for Ben to be involved in this, you know, Ben has been around mostly conservatives, mostly sort of more hard right people his whole life, especially on the social issues. I think Ben actually is being moderated in a way. I don't necessarily like that word in this case, but I think he's being sort of shifted on some of these things. And I think we're kind of bringing out the best in him too. So it's very cool. Dave, you discussed with Peterson and Shapiro about everyday people doing something such as YouTube to make a difference. Do you have any advice for me as a regular person who enjoys writing about political issues? Where do I start? So I mean, that's probably the question that all of us get the most. It's like, what do I do? Where do I start? It's easy to say to people, just jump in. So look, the truth is I'm just some guy that started a YouTube channel. Like, yeah, I did stand up for a long time and I had my ups and my downs and I had odd jobs and handed out tickets on the street and I bartended and did all sorts of stupid stuff. But you know, you just keep going. You just keep going. So I would say, look, you got to start somewhere. You're not going to start tomorrow. You're not going to start a blog tomorrow and then be like, holy cow, I'm a successful political writer. But start writing. Start writing. Start putting it up. You know, create a Squarespace, which is probably free, or you know, something like that. Get a Tumblr. Does Tumblr even exist anymore? Get something where you can start writing and start tagging the people you're writing about. So you know what? If you dig what I do, write about me and then tag me. Maybe I'll retweet you. And then, whoa, next thing you know, you got 10 people following your blog. And then you write about somebody else and then hopefully somebody else catches it. That's all you can do. Or start doing an audio podcast. Start putting up YouTube videos. I mean, we need more people in this. I am such a firm believer in competition that if 20 other great interview shows come out and are doing great work and spreading good ideas, I will be thrilled, even if that competition causes our numbers to go down. First off, I'm confident in my own beliefs. I'm confident in my audience, and I'm confident to see the tea leaves changing. So if I saw people doing something that was better than me, I would make sure that we were doing better work, and I'm constantly thinking about that anyway. But the best thing that you can do is do stuff, and the more of us that are out there doing it, they will not be able to stop us. And that's why I'm saying that I think we're turning a corner on this thing. The amount of people, the energy that was at this Peterson event. When just a couple of weeks ago, I went up to San Francisco and Ben and Sam and Eric and I had dinner, and then they performed, or they you know, did their talk. And it was like, the energy is electric. The amount of people that I was just standing out there trying to find David and Amira, just walked out from the back of the theater. And I ended up taking selfies with probably 50, 100 people. There's something really cool happening right now, and you can be part of it. You are a part of it by watching and supporting shows like this, but you can even be a bigger part of it by putting your voice out there, for sure. Start tweeting more. Not that I want anyone to waste more time on Twitter, but there you go. So you went to Ayn Rand Con. Any chance you're going to make an appearance at OCON this summer? I was at OCON last summer. I was at the OCON. Well, I did two things with them. I was at OCON. Was that the one in Pittsburgh or in Atlanta? Man, my travels have been nuts. I guess the student one was in Atlanta. So I was at the Pittsburgh one, which I believe is the one you're talking about. Yeah, if they invite me, I'm happy to go. I'm doing a couple more events with them over the next few months. I'm doing University of Pittsburgh. I'm doing Berkeley. Hopefully it won't burn down. And then I'm doing a few things outside of Ayn Rand Institute. I'm doing a few things with Yaron Brook. We'll be at University of Tampa on March 27th, and then a couple others. Man, it's hard to remember all this stuff. It really is. Steven Pinker is going to be promoting Enlightenment Now in LA next month. Will you have him on? Yes, we will. We have him. He's in town the 13th and 14th. I think he's doing something with Sam. We have him on, I believe, the 13th, and it should air. I think it airs that week. And I'm very excited about that, by the way. I've been going back and forth with this guy for years, trying to get him on. So it's great that it's finally happening. Great guest suggestion, Professor Francesca Strava-Capolu, fascinating biblical scholar. We'll add her to the list. I don't know that. Just to say the name would be worth having her on. Just finished watching Peterson Shapiro video. Love the format of this coupled interview. Keep up the good work, Dave. You have our support. Thank you. Well, thank you. And also, I definitely want to do more of these for sure. As I said, we're going to have the Weinstein brothers here. But I want to just keep mixing this up and keep, we'll keep doing the one-on-ones, which I love, which was where we can really hear what one person's ideas are. But I want to do let's keep mixing these people in. Let's get people you wouldn't expect sitting together, whether they agree or disagree. And no two people agree on everything, but let's figure out ways. And I hope that you guys appreciated. One thing I really wanted to do is I really wanted to cover some new ground with them. So I didn't want to just do purely leftism with Jordan and purely politics with Ben. So that's why I really, especially in the second half, went to the personal stuff. We did a little more on their own personal beliefs of religion. I still want to dig on that with Jordan a little bit, because I think I have a better understanding of what Ben's personal practices are that make him call himself a religious person. Jordan talks about the importance of religion, but I don't know personally how he uses that in his own life. And I would be curious to know about that a little bit more. But then also talked about our own struggles and fears and things like that. And I thought I got very honest answers out of them. So it was pretty cool. Any updates on the Discord server? I've really been looking forward to the announcement, but it hasn't come yet. Sad face. Yes, it is on the list. It is not forgotten. We are trying so many things at once. I promise you we're truly working as hard as we can. My hope in my travels over the next couple weeks is that I can get Amira and David to sit down with a couple things that I don't necessarily have to be involved in the nitty gritty of, and that we need to rework Patreon and we have an older video on there and get some new graphics up and things like that. And unfortunately, in a way, sometimes those are the things that get lost in the shovel when we're so focused on putting on a good show and making good content for you guys and all that. But yes, I promise you it's on the list. And I really hope that if everything goes according to plan, that this will be the last month that you have to ask me that. I wish there was more opportunity for these deeper level of discussion that I could participate in with other like-minded people in the real world. That discussion was my kind of discussion. You can find people right now. If you're watching this right now, and jump in the chat, find some people. You can probably find some people in your local area. As I said, I've become friends with some of the patrons that I do the Hangouts with. It's hard. I know it's hard because for whatever reason, these simple ideas that we're talking about, and not that they're all simple. I certainly wouldn't describe what Jordan's talking about simple, but the basic ideas of liberalism and freedom and liberty and all that, these are thought of as like out of date or something because of this drivel from the left lately. So it can be hard to find the right people, but you can find them. You can find them. And I really want to keeping this community of people growing, because you know me, I'm not for censorship, but Twitter creates a situation where the trolls basically run the factory. They're just running the show over there. Here, because literally trolls don't pay $1 for anything. For those of you that pay $1, you're able to connect with some other people. So keep engaging with people here. Try to make some relationships with people here. And even if for now they're only relationships over chat or video chat or whatever, or even just emails, it's like you can find some like-minded people. You really can. My other hope is that at least by the second half of this year, we can do some sort of more live events that can be public with some kind of meet and greets, maybe do some stuff at restaurants or bars or something like that. It is the London Symphony Orchestra playing at in London, so that's awesome. And they're playing they played the soundtracks for all episodes 1 through 6. That's very cool. I guess I probably didn't do that. You inspired me to alter my diet. I bought some MCT oil and I'm putting it in my tea each morning. I'm on no sweets or sugar in my tea either and cutting out most carbs. Feeling good so far. That's great to hear. So as of this morning, I've lost 7.5 pounds in it's about 20 days or so. I think I do look a little thinner. I definitely feel a little thinner in the stomach area. Yeah, I feel good. So for those of you that haven't been playing along, I've been doing this basically slow carb paleo diet. So very heavy on meat and fish and veggies, but really certainly no pasta, no breads, no sugar whatsoever. And you know, there can be a little, I'm definitely still getting some like mood swings that if I just eat something real quick, just like a slice of turkey, I'm good to go. But getting the sugar out has been great. I haven't really been drinking. And I feel good. I feel good. So I'm going to see if I can push it for another couple weeks and then kind of see where we're at. How can I become Douglas Murray's personal chauffeur? I don't know if he needs a personal chauffeur. I assume they have Uber in London. As a matter of fact, I know they do. But I would send him your resume and you never know. The conspiracy is real. Can't wait for whatever the next YouTube platform is so we can support you there. Yeah, I mean, maybe it is, right? Like if you look at the live stream thing during State of the Union, Daily Wire goes down using the same exact C-SPAN feed that Young Turks is going down. Is that just, did something freak out at the Daily Wire office? I've done dozens of live streams. Is it a coincidence that the live stream goes down when I have Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson and I had joked that we're going to crash the internet? I mean, I don't know. As you know, Carl Sagan, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I don't know what the truth is, but I know that you guys, if we ever jump ship, I know you guys would follow me. And believe me, there's a lot of talk happening in Silicon Valley, here in LA, and actually all over the country about what some of the solutions are. Will you be at VidCon? Thought of doing something near VidCon with all the skeptics. Also thoughts on Sargon's liberalist movement. So VidCon, I'm guessing it's probably in like May or June. I wasn't planning on being there only because I'm traveling so much. And that's very obviously focused on the YouTube community. And I think I'm sort of shifting out of that into the sort of wider world a little bit. Although if that sounds smug or self-important, I certainly don't mean it to that way. Maybe I can just sort of jump there just to say hi to some people. I think that would be fun. And obviously I like a lot of those people. So maybe I can get there. Any thoughts on Sargon's liberalist movement? So I've been hearing about this. So I think he's trying to take back the word liberal, which I've sort of prescribed to, let's get classical liberal going. He's tried to turn this into liberalist. I don't know that we need new words at this point. I haven't watched enough of the videos that he's done about this. I don't know that we need new words or labels. I think we need the basic set of ideas of freedom to get in people's brains. That's it. Like at this point, does it matter if you call yourself, if you identify as a classical liberal or a libertarian? And we can whittle away whether you need this much money in government or this much power over this. That's not really the issue anymore. And again, this is why a guy like Sam and a guy like Ben can now find themselves as allies. The issue we need to be fighting is authoritarian control and state power. That's it. So I don't know that we need more labels right now. I want to keep finding ways that these tents can be blown open and we can get everybody to kind of come together and say, all right, we got to fight state power. That doesn't mean we want total anarchy, but how do we have sensible, and look, what does Eric say? Eric Weinstein always says, what we're missing these days is communal sense making. I think we're making it right now. I think you guys get it. And I think that's why you're part of what we do here. Hey, have you and David noticed a change in energy levels now that you're past week 3 and I assume fat adapted? That's the point where I noticed sleep apnea and inflammation leaving and having long-term energy that felt nice and steady. You know, it's funny you say that because I actually do feel very energetic right now. You probably can see it. I'm a little beat just because I haven't slept much in the last couple of days because we've been so busy. But like my energy levels feel pretty good. As I said, I definitely am still having like some like little mood thing related to hunger. But we're basically in week 3 now. As I said, lost some weight and I'm pretty much feeling good. But I've heard a few people say this, that week 3 is sort of where it kicks in. Hey Dave, on religion, I felt the same way. Not really an atheist, but not really a theist. Do you find the label deist attractive? I'm glad you asked that. Okay, I actually think that I can't say most people. I actually think there's a huge amount of people. I wish I had the name of the person that said this so I could address you directly. They're just copying and pasting the questions, which is fine. I think there's a lot of people that are basically where we are. And in a way, it's sort of the most lost thing. Like look, obviously you guys know, I believe in facts. I believe in critical thinking. I believe in getting information and making choices. A leap of faith for me. And I've tried it at different points in my life. I've talked about how the time when I was 20 some odd years old and I went to Mount Sinai in Egypt and I hiked the mountain And I literally had just been in Egypt where I was eating pigeon in Cairo, and I was having dysentery. I mean, I was like diarrhea all over the mountain. We hiked at the worst time of day, hot as hell. It's probably 100 some odd degrees. I get up. I mean, I was delusional. If there was ever a time I was going to see something, see a burning bush or see something. And I was also at that age, that early 20s, college-ish age, where it's like, I was still in college. Maybe I was 19, where it's like, you want to have that experience, you know, like, I'm ready, world, show me what you are, kind of thing. And it didn't happen. If there was ever a time that it could have. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist, but the leap of faith, for me to say I believe in something that I can't prove, it just, all the parts of my brain that fire, they just can't quite get there. That being said, there is another part of me, and I think this is what Jordan Peterson does hit on really well about the different pieces of us, which is there's something else in us that is beyond what we can sort of explain. And I don't think that makes me a believer in a traditional sense. So I don't have lack of belief because I can't prove everything, but I don't have some belief that I can't prove at the same time. I hope that wasn't too circular in logic. Deist, which most of the founders were deists, you know, they had this belief in a creator, but I think they probably all meant it in different ways. And I don't know that they meant it in that there was a bearded guy in the sky controlling them, but they had the idea, so a deist concept. But then and this is why I love Thomas Jefferson so much, and we're doing a show on him during President's Week, which we shot already, and it's wonderful. And I can't wait for you guys to see it. You know, he was a deist in that he believed, but he also, what superseded his belief was his belief that church and state had to be separate and nobody should be governed by that. He was basically saying, he wanted rights to come from God because he felt that was more important than rights coming from the government. Now, that concept, I really believe, what I would say is, you don't have to say it comes from God. It is your innate human right. So what the believers would say, it's your God-given right to be free and have the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It's your God-given right. I would say it's your innately human right to have that. It's not the government's right to give you. And I also don't think it's something that you can't prove a God's right to give you. But again, these are all what a rich place to have conversations with people that you agree with and disagree with. And I'd love to hear more of all of your thoughts on that. What other guests do you have lined up for topics outside of the political culture? So we've got a couple really cool things. So I'm traveling a lot in February with a bunch of gigs. I'll be at Ithaca College on February 7th. A couple other things throughout the month. So we did pre-tape a lot of stuff. So one of the things we're doing is the 5 days of 5 scholars on 5 different presidents, which I'm really looking forward to. We've already taped Lincoln, JFK, and Jefferson. We're doing two more tomorrow. Next week's show is really cool. We got a guy by the name of Sean Hopwood, who is a bank robber, robbed 5 banks, finally caught on his 5th time. I don't want to give away too much. Ends up in jail where he starts studying law, writes a brief that gets to the Supreme Court and wins 9-0. He then became a lawyer and now is a professor at Georgetown Law. It's a fascinating, like such a cool, it's got like sort of like Shawshank Redemption elements to it. Really great story. So I think you guys are going to really dig that. We've got another great interview coming, and this one's really wild. I don't want to tip off too much, but Michael Brown, you guys may remember Michael Brown. He was the former head of FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, during Hurricane Katrina. His claim to fame or claim to infamy was during the hurricane in Louisiana when George W. Bush put his arm around him, and the famous quote, although it's a slightly butchered quote, and I get into it with him, was "Heck of a job, Brownie." That may be how you remember him. You can Google it if you don't remember. Heck of a job, Brownie. And basically, he was one of these people who was doing his job, and next thing you know, the media decided to destroy his life. So we had a really, really interesting conversation. On the non-political side, I definitely want to start doing more on some of the non-political stuff. You know, we just did this stuff all about food and the right stuff to feed your brain with Max Lugavere. I'm trying to think. Pinker, I guess that'll be mostly political. We're still working out the Thomas Sowell thing. I don't know if you've got some ideas, let me know. And I'm probably forgetting a couple things. Let's see. I've moved more to the left, or I should say from a hard right standpoint, to a classically liberal view. Love to hear that, in large part because of your show. Your show introduced me to people like Sam Harris and other incredibly intelligent thinkers, for which I'll always be grateful. Well, I love hearing that. I love hearing that. You know, I hear people say to me, oh, you see, the right's just using Rubin because he's tolerant. You know, he's being a patsy to them, and it's like, no, 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 no. And people like you are proof of that. It's why when I went on Alex Jones' show, my only request was that we do it live, because if I go on there live, putting everything that Alex Jones says or does or is aside, if I go on there live and say what I believe and talk about the beliefs that I have, then maybe some of his viewers might come over here and go, wow, there's some interesting stuff here. And by the way, that's exactly what happened, because I've gotten a bunch of email. Because that, can I post a link to the Tampa speech? Because I'd love to go to that. So I will be in Tampa, University of Tampa, on March 27th with Yaron Brook. I don't know if there's a public link yet, but check the Ayn Rand Facebook page. But I promise you I will post something here before then for sure. Let's see. Funny, Sam Harris's podcast introduced me to Rubin. Both are great. They're helping create a future we need for better conversation and positive progress. Actually, I first heard of Harris from Hader on YouTube around 2014. She said he was the only person on the left talking honestly about Islam. Been hooked ever since. Yeah, what does that tell you? These people who are taking personal risks to talk about things in an honest way are connecting other people. And at the same time, all, you know, this crew of people that you now know, like, we actually are all becoming friends. And you know, most of these people I've had over for dinner with their spouses, and I've gone on vacations with some of these people. And it's like, it's really, really cool. So for any of you that I know, because some of you still email me about this, that when you're coming out and talking about whatever your new set of ideas are, and your progressive friends now don't want to talk to you anymore, you will find new friends. I promise you that. Dave, any good book suggestions? Well, I've got most of the authors who have been here. I've got their books right here. I would say if you want just a great sort of easy read that really helped me frame a lot of the things that I believe in, Carl Sagan, I've mentioned this before. Carl Sagan's last book is called Billions and Billions. He actually died before it was over. So his wife, Ann Druyan, who's also a professor at Cornell, she had to finish the book. But it really, he obviously knew that this was going to be the last one. And I think he wrote it I've read some of, you know, I've read Cosmos and a couple other of his books, Contact and some of the others. But I think it was his most easily understandable book. And he gives a great sort of, this is where we were, and this is where we are, and this is where we're going. It's a really beautiful, wonderful book. I should read it again myself. I have it in the other room. But speaking of that, I watched Contact again the other day, and Contact is with Jodie Foster and Matthew McConaughey. It's Carl Sagan's only work of fiction. It is such a wonderful movie. It's 20 years ago. It was made in 1997. When I saw it the first time, it blew my mind. That's what got me into science, which ultimately got me into critical thinking and the rest of it, and questioning things and all that. But it's a really, really wonderful movie that's so relevant to all of the things now. They talk about how technology is changing us but not making us happier. There's questions of belief and leap of faith. And there's all questions about public funding of science and all this other cool stuff, on top of the fact that Jodie Foster is just absolutely sublime. Maybe we should do like that's actually not a bad idea. You know what? I think we're going to do this. We'll do a movie night one night where we'll all watch a movie. We don't have to watch together. This could be a really cool Patreon reward thing, actually, where we'll pick a movie. We'll do a poll or something. We'll all pick a movie. We'll all watch it privately. Everyone will watch it, you know, Apple TV or whatever you do. And then we'll meet for like a giant Google Hangout, and everyone can talk about it. Or maybe I can Skype you guys in and we can all share some thoughts. I think that's a great idea. Does that seem like a good idea? Let me know in the comments right down below. Are you worried that there will be a cult developing around you, thus having followers who believe whatever you say without thinking for themselves? I certainly hope not. I mean, believe me, I am not a cult leader, and do not follow me in any sort of cultish way. All I want you to do is think for yourself. Even if at the end of the day you listen to whatever I say and whatever my guests say, and you say this is all bullshit and I believe in strong state power or whatever it is, whatever else, and Dave's a fool, I want you to think for yourself. That is not I want you to. I want to think for myself, and I think that's the best way to be a person, and I think that that's probably the best way for you to be you. But it isn't. It's an interesting question, that what happens to people who start getting followings and how they react to them and to have influence over people. And, you know, it's interesting because if you watched the chat yesterday with Jordan was basically saying that he believes prophets are real, that when you read biblical stories, he believes that these people are real. Now, I don't know that he quite believes they were tipped off by a conscious God. I think what he's saying is the innate belief, sort of, the metaphysics and the reality and the construct around that sort of makes them prophets because they're saying something very true, but that they're regular people. But at some level, and I wanted to get into this more, but we were running out of time. At some level, that kind of makes someone like him a modern prophet, right? Now, I don't think he thinks he's a prophet. And someone actually did ask him this question about a cult leader. And he, of course, does not want to be a cult leader, nor do I even remotely think that's even close to being true. But it's an interesting question. If you believe that there were prophets in the past who really were just enlightened, awake people who saw things before they were coming, much like a Jordan Peterson, or if you want to include me in that, just people who are out there saying the things on the fringe of society, then what's the difference between that person and what a prophet was back then? Now, I am no way, let me be very clear once again, I am no way saying I'm a prophet, but it's an interesting intellectual exercise. If you're going to take the ideas of the believers and say the prophets existed, well, if you believe that, then there have to be prophets now, in effect. So it's an interesting question. I promise to do more of that. Let's see. Dave, have you found an example of any purely leftist shows like TYT that have been demonetized that might show at least some level of parity to the demonetization issue? I've not been able to find such an example. So look, well, first off, no one over there will talk to me. Not that I really want to talk to them at this point. I don't know. I do know that some of the leftist shows have been demonetized for different things. So some of it probably is some legit algorithmic thing based on metadata. Okay, so fine. It definitely seems that they are attacking the people that are thought of as right or center or conservative or libertarian or whatever. Now, we also may be talking about the topics that are really watched out for, but we also know, I know from insiders, that the algorithm learns. So once they demonetize you, your rating to be demonetized again goes up. So now you have a self-fulfilling prophecy that just keeps getting propagated. Which is why all of my videos that get demonetized, once I fight them publicly, at this point in the last couple of months, they all do get monetized days later. So they're screwing us over on the initial burst. But then when I make such a public brouhaha, then they do monetize us. So that tells you they're not really demonetizable, or they're not in their own vision, right? It's not really the content that we're putting up that should be demonetized. It's something wrong with the algorithm, because once they look at it, they do monetize it. But if I didn't have the following that I have, and if I didn't have the influence that I have on Twitter, would they ever be listening to me? I have no idea. So I don't know about the parody truly. I would like to know a little bit more about it. But by the way, that's why I never claim that I'm being singled out per se. I might be. I'm sure Crowder, I know Crowder's dealing with a lot of this. I think he has a little inside information on it too. Carter Quill, a further comment on deism. Many of the founders thought of the idea of divine providence, which I find very interesting. I guess a good comparison would be the idea of fate. Okay, Carter, this was you that asked about deism earlier. Yeah, you know what? I definitely want to dive into this a little bit more. And in my interview where we talk about Thomas Jefferson, we got into this. But I should do something on this more in general, because it's obviously sort of where I'm at. And it fits, I guess, considering I have such admiration for these people. I guess that actually does make a lot of sense. How committed to this beard would you say on a scale of 1 to 10? I really dig it now. It might be a little long at the moment, but I am digging it. Everyone loves it. Everyone that comes up to me, they love it. So I'm like at a 9 right now, actually. What do you think of the beard, good people? I love it. Dave can bring moderate leftists over to free market beliefs. He can also bring conservatives open to the idea of legal weed and gay marriage. That's what I'm saying, because if your base is freedom, live your life. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean you can be crazy and jump onto your neighbor's lawn and start taking their shit, because then you're infringing on their freedom. But beyond that, that's all the government should be doing. And when the government should be doing things, it should be done at the most local level. I've told you guys this story before. The exit that I live off one of the big LA highways here is a disaster. It looks like a bomb went off. There's garbage everywhere. It's disgusting. David always says to me every day, I'm going to put on an orange shirt and get out there and pick up some garbage. I don't want him to get killed, so I don't want him to do it. But we've been calling and submitting forms and stuff online to our local people. That's why you need local control. Now, in this case, they haven't been very responsive to us, which kind of sucks, but I would much rather be dealing with them than the federal government trying to get them to fix my local problems. So the answer is local government, where you have control, where you can actually know the mayor in your town, know your representative, affect them that way, not have all of these bureaucrats, nonsense, and middle management losers who do nothing, just sucking money from everywhere. And by the way, Trump has been very good on this, and I actually do think the swamp is being drained. What about an elected official on the show? Maybe Ben Sass. I would love to have Ben Sass. I've asked Ben Sass. We've tried for Gavin Newsom. We've tried, obviously, for Bernie. We've tried for Trump and Hillary, and of course, all that. We've tried for Elizabeth Warren. Some of these people will start coming around because the more mainstream crumbles, they know they'll have to get around. Bernie really only does friendly interviews, and not that I wouldn't be friendly or respectful to him, but I would challenge him on his ideas. His big thing is when he was on that thing with Ted Cruz. Ted, I believe that healthcare is a right. Ted, do you believe that healthcare is a right? And Ted looks at him, and Ted's like, no. We have the right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We have the right to bear arms. We have the right to free speech. Like Ted, for whatever you may think of Ted, he's a little creepy, whatever. The guy knows the Constitution inside and out. So I would love to question Bernie on some of that stuff. So I do hope, and I think it'll happen. Oh, we've got Mike Schellenberger, who's running for, as a Democrat, running for governor of California. We've got him coming next month. Really interesting guy, really into nuclear power, really into using technology to solve problems. And he's on the left. He is a Democrat. He has some issues with identity politics for sure. But he'll be running against Gavin Newsom as a Democrat. I really don't like Gavin Newsom. He's the type of big government progressive that I really dislike strongly. So hopefully Michael do well. We shall see. Maybe you answered this, but thumbs up or thumbs down on Last Jedi? As a real Star Wars fan, curious of your thoughts. Speaking of Star Wars, how much faith do you have with Disney handling the franchise going forward? I don't want to belabor this too much because I've talked about it a bunch. I have to, it would be like this. I liked it better the second time around because I surprised my 8-year-old nephew and I took him to the movie theater. He thought he was going to the doctor or something. We took him to the movie theater. He couldn't believe it. There were so many problems with it. How do you not explain who Snoke is? The amazing moment when Rey and Kylo come together, you think, holy shit, they're flipping the entire Star Wars series, the whole lore on its head. And then at the end of the scene, they decide they're against each other again. Finn should have died. He should have died in the previous movie, should have died in this one. The girl that Finn was doing the thing with had no point in the story. But Leia having force in space, there's no force in space. And then just such an easy one that they so screwed. Purple-haired Laura Dern. I don't care about the purple hair and all the, and there was a lot of SJW nonsense in there. It's all old white men that are the bad guys and this eclectic group of diverse, whatever, the good guys. Okay, blah, blah. Laura Dern, as that character, what they did is they killed Admiral Akbar in the explosion. So now Leia ends up in space and uses the Force to get back to the ship. They announced that Akbar is dead. It should have been Akbar on that ship. And the whole time, old Admiral Akbar, you would have thought he has no ideas left. He's done as a general. And then at the last minute, Akbar does that amazing thing in light speed through the cruiser. That would have been incredible. And what a great ending for Akbar. Instead, they take this sort of cult hero, Akbar, they kill him off screen, and nobody gives a shit about purple-haired Dern. So that's all I think about that. How about a meet and greet interview tour? I like the idea of binding up local chapters of like-minded people, smaller think tanks. I think there's some stuff like this in the works. Let me know where you are, and hopefully if I travel to your town, you can get to an event, and we can do that kind of thing. But I do like the general idea of starting to do meetups. You know, I mean, maybe you guys should start doing this. Maybe a couple of you guys could start in your own town. You know, you don't have to brand it around Rubin Report, but just liberalism or whatever it is. But you could maybe have it be something about Rubin Report, and when and if I can get to whatever your town is, I would try to come. But you know, just do a little hangout at a bar or something, just like drinks with decent people. And if you start doing it, I'll start retweeting them, and let's see if we can get some people there. I think that would be really cool. Is Ethan Van Sciver anywhere on your radar for interviews? I don't know the name, but we will add it to the list. Alphabet's SJW culture may spell its doom. It may come soon. Alphabet is Google's parent company, of course. Yeah, it may. I think this SJW stuff, this diversity stuff, viewing people on their immutable characteristics, haranguing everybody with a firing neuron in their brain, it's going to destroy everything. I think it's destroying Hollywood right now. It's destroying politics. It's destroying sports. It will destroy everything. And what will be left standing? Guess what, guys? It's you and it's me. We're going to be okay. So don't worry about it. Do you think there's an important distinction between thinking of the unknown in a religious or spiritual sense, as opposed to believing in the same reality, but thinking of it instead as gaps in our scientific knowledge and understanding? Well, I think it's an important distinction depending on what type of person you are. So if you're purely a scientific mind, so let's say you're Sam Harris. I don't want to speak for him, but you're someone of that mind, a purely scientific mind. those gaps, you're not going to want to fill those gaps with spirituality. Well, Sam wrote a book. I have it right here. I'll grab it. If you don't have it, you should get it. It's a great book, actually. It's called Waking Up: A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion. So mostly he's talking about meditation, and he's talking about some other sort of Eastern religion ways where you don't have to take the leap of faith, or you certainly don't have to do any dogmatic religion thing to still feel the nourishment of some spirituality. But I would imagine that there are some people of the purely scientific mind who don't want to fill those gaps with something spiritual. Maybe there are. I think most of us have some sort of spiritual yearning, or a yearning for something that's bigger than us. But I could imagine that there's a certain set of people who are extremely literal, who don't have that need. Then I could see other people, and I think this is where most of us fall. So it harkens back to the earlier question, who believe in the here and now, believe in science, believe in reality, but also need to fill it up with some things that we can't quantitatively prove or something. So in this book, Sam talks about a lot of the ways that you can do that. And for me, I think it's, I'm not a big meditator per se. I've done it a little bit, or yoga. I do it every now and again. But I would say for me, it's just a place of mental exploration. It's why I love science fiction, right? I could go, watch Black Mirror, although it's kind of dark. You're not going to feel spiritually nourished, but I love sci-fi. There's this new Philip K. Dick series called Electric Dreams on Hulu right now. It's awesome, or it's Hulu, or it might be Amazon Prime, actually. I think it's Amazon Prime. And Philip K. Dick, who wrote Total Recall and Minority Report and Scanner Darkly and Blade Runner and a zillion other things, Running Man, the guy's unbelievable. He's long since gone. But for me, that area, that gap, is what I fill with sci-fi. I fill it with maybe some video games, or just letting my brain think about things. That's what it's all about. That's why, for as much as we do the atheist versus religion conversation, I almost think that's the wrong conversation to be having. That's sort of what I was trying to say to Ben and Jordan yesterday. It's like, okay, Jew, Christian, we can whittle this all away, but at the end of the day, you're just people with some thoughts. And I think the more we can get to that, and we can fill our own gaps with goodness or something, I think that's better. Come to Australia. I would love to. Do you think history is damned if we keep judging historical figures on today's morals? Yes, I think this is one of the absolute worst things you can do, which is why I'm 100% against taking down these monuments. You can put up a plaque next to it that says, Robert E. Lee was a racist and blah, blah, blah. You can do all of those things, but taking these monuments down is a horrible idea, because one day they will come for Mount Rushmore. They will take down the Washington Monument. George Washington owned slaves. They will take down the Jefferson Memorial. They will take down the Lincoln Memorial, because even though Lincoln freed the slaves, he wasn't an abolitionist. At first, he was more of a realist. They will come for everything. And that's what I mean. This postmodern thing is a movement of destruction. It is not a movement of creation. So we cannot let them do this. I'm completely against it. Hey, Dave, fellow Californian here. Tried weed for the first time since they legalized it. Maybe it's the lifelong drinker in me, but I didn't get that much out of it. I'll stick to alcohol. How do you enjoy those two substances? And do you ever do them together? I mean, that's sort of a beautiful thing, what you said right there, because, okay, it was legal. You tried it. It's not your thing. You're not going to do it again. So that almost proves why it should be legal, right? So drinking, I haven't been drinking for the last couple of weeks, really, but generally I like red wine. I've been into Zinfandels lately, but I like California Cabs a lot. As far as weed, I say this all the time. I have a license, but actually it's recreational now. And I have a vape pen, and I have an indica cartridge. Indica is the one that just makes you relax, and that's it. And then I have another cartridge that I think it's a hybrid. It's Maui Wowie. It might be a sativa actually, but it's like a low grade. Sativa is the one that's more mental. I don't really like those. I don't need my brain to be doing any more than my brain is doing on an average moment. If anything, I like my brain to take it down a notch. So really, I'll just take a puff or two, and I lay on the couch with the dog and with David, and have some ice cream, although I'm not eating ice cream right now, and watch repeats of Seinfeld, or we watch something on Netflix, and that's it. So, and by the way, I know many people that have been helped by medical marijuana. And there's just, look, there is literally no argument to say that if your argument is that marijuana should be illegal, but alcohol should be legal, it literally makes no sense. There are millions and millions of alcohol-related deaths. There are no marijuana-related deaths. You can also smoke CBD, by the way, which has none of the psychoactive properties, but actually has some of the health properties of marijuana. Okay, I'm just going to do two more because we're past, and my computer's about to die. Also, good morning from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Hey, what's up? I love your show, so enriching. Alas, I am German. I'm German. I would find a political sit down about our immigration and media crisis with a knowledgeable German. Awesome. I'd love to do that. You know, we've talked about Germany a bunch, but I don't know that have I had an expert from Germany? I don't think so. You've probably watched my interviews with Douglas Murray, who wrote The Strange Death of Europe, who focuses on Germany a lot. We've talked about this with a couple people, including Tino Sanandaji, but that's from the Swedish angle. I should talk to somebody from Germany about this. I will definitely keep that in mind. Okay, just the last couple here, guys. I'm homeschooling my kids right now, trying to teach them to think freely in a classical education model. Any plans to have a guest that might discuss the education in compulsory education years? Great idea. That's a great idea. I promise you I will do that. Would be interesting to hear your thoughts on end-of-life medical assistance in dying for the terminally ill in extreme agony. Is it a topic you'd consider having on the show? I would love to do that. I'm for euthanasia. I mean, I believe that people should be allowed to die in dignity. I believe you should be able to make choices about your own life before those choices are taken away from you because you're incapacitated. Some other time I'll tell you stories about one of my grandmas in particular, who was in hospice for 20 days and what that was sort of like for my family. Someone please remind me to tell the story because I think it fits to a lot of things, but it's a little too long to tell right now. But that's a great topic to talk about, and I absolutely should. And finally, being that here's a perfect one to end this on, and I see all you guys are writing a lot of nice things. Dave, how annoying is Sam Cedar and his constant straw manning of you and Sam Harris? I don't watch any of that stuff. I couldn't care yet less. He's nobody. He wants clicks off me. It doesn't matter. Let's see. Being that no two people agree on everything, and we are faced with what amounts to a two-party system that forces us on all or none set of parameters and stances on issues, how do you affect real change on our current political system? I mean, I think mostly you can affect change probably in the personal way. So I just started saying the things that I believe. I mean, I remember the first video that I did on free speech. I was walking in an alley. I think it had something to do with I think this was the first one. There had been an article in the front page of the New York Times about an art installation with the Pope with like poop on him, and they showed the picture on the front page of the Times. And of course, that in and of itself didn't bother me at an artistic level, but it was like, you guys would never do that if it was about a different religion and a different guy from a different religion. And it was like, this is what our own media does here. And that really then already I had my awakening related to the whole Sam Harris, Ben Affleck thing and everything else. I can tell my computer's really about to die here. So, but real quick, I would say what you can do for yourself is what I did. I just started talking about the things that I cared about. I started talking to my friends about it. Eventually, I started talking to you guys about it, and start getting involved in your local community. You know, like if you think the education system's messed up, figure out a way to volunteer at a local school. You know, whatever you can do in your own little way. But you're right. These systems. The political system has created this duopoly where we think it's only this or that, and it's just not. But as long as it is, I will always vote for people who veer on the side of less government. I will always vote for people who want less control. And often those will be bad choices to have, but that's what I'm going to go for. Anyway, thank you guys. Today was really a great day. It's always fun connecting with you guys. Yesterday was just unbelievable. There's so much energy and momentum behind what we're doing, and whether YouTube monetizes us or not, you guys are the engine that makes this thing go. I thank all of you who watch this thing live and all of you guys who are going to watch post. And all right, that's for me. I'm going to go eat some protein and veggies with no alcohol. Lucky me. All right. Thanks, everybody.